Jahan Dotson just dominated camp, nothing but rave reviews, and it's been proven out. Especially when you think about how bad the Commanders' defense is. And they got to play Philadelphia this week. Now that's obviously a tough secondary, but Carson Wentz. I'm just imagining this. Like Carson Wentz against that defense. Like, don't make me watch football this weekend. I'm just asking. Just don't make me watch football. That's all I want. Is it my job?
That's what I've been told.
I'm being told it's my job.
Yeah, I told you need to watch football. You need to be here Sunday.
What if I quit? Do I have to still be on this show?
Yes,
I'm going to quit now.
Please.
I'm just quitting now. I'm quitting now.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Every time I try to quit, they suck me back in. You know what the two worst words are in the American language, Jay Croucher?
What are they, Matthew Berry?
Contractual obligation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's up, everybody? I am the contractually obligated Matthew Berry. He is Jay Croucher. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. It is noon on Peacock, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere. And we are going to get into our Week 3 rankings today on the show, Jay. But a little bit of breaking news into the Happy Hour HQ here.
So
I don't know, into the bar. Into the bar. I don't know what we are. I mean, we're into the bar. Anyway, so the news is about Mike Evans. He suspended the appeal. He got denied. Now he's out for Week 3 officially.
Yeah, I think he's probably about 15-1 to get that overturned. I think that was pretty clear cut. But yeah, look, the market thinks this is going to be a very low-scoring game.
Hang on, wait. Do you put odds on everything in your life?
Absolutely,
like when your wife says to you, hey, will you? Hey, do you think you can pick up the kids later? Are you like, I put that at 8-1?
I literally.
Like, are you literally like, is that this your entire life? Like every answer that somebody asks you, like, hey, if the wife is just like, hey, Jay, maybe tonight we get a little romantic.
Yeah, 50-1.
I've had a few beers, 3-1. Yeah. Like, are you like just everything? Like, do
literally,
you just odd it out?
Everything is through that lens.
Yeah.
Yesterday, before I flew up to Stanford, my 2-year-old was sitting on like the kitchen bench, and Sophia was like, I think you should get her down. And I'm like, Remy is like a 20-1 shot to actually fall off. She's pretty good at sitting on the kitchen bench by now. So just everything is through that lens.
I like that. 20-1 to keep your kids safe. I like that. Perfect. Absolutely. Listen, by the way, they're 2.
Yeah.
Their brains are all mushy. It doesn't
exactly.
matter if they fall.
Very flexible.
They're flexible. It's bendy. It's all fine. All right, but let's talk now about Mike Evans not going to play against Green Bay. You were referencing this. I think this is insane. On BetMGM, official sports betting partner of the Happy Hour, we appreciate them. We need to get like a kiosk or somewhere in here where you can actually place bets, or a lion.
Can we get Jamie Foxx in Collateral? A little shot of that. One of the most underrated films of the past 20 years.
Maybe we could actually get Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx standing at the bar.
Just as the bartender. We've been trying to. We want to cast a bartender. Maybe it's Jamie Foxx. Like, is he shooting a movie right now?
Yeah, is he available?
Exactly. A lion and a peacock, and let them battle it out.
That's great.
Right?
It's like Alien versus Predator, but lion versus peacock.
Lion versus peacock. But they're
Lion
together.
wins.
I mean, sure, but I'm just saying, but we're in partnership, so it's not anima. So a peacock and a lion making sweet love.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Making sweet love.
And the
sweet
offspring,
peacock lion love.
The offspring is the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
There we go. That's what we got. It all comes full circle. All right. Anyway, back to BetMGM. Line is currently 41.5, one of the lowest on the slate for Packers, Buccaneers. Yeah. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers.
Top 2 in MVP.
No points scored. That's what we're thinking here. 41.5, and it makes sense because no Mike Evans in this game for Tom Brady. We don't expect Chris Godwin to play. He's highly unlikely. He hasn't officially been ruled out, but we're not expecting Chris Godwin to play in this game. We don't know about Julio Jones' status. Feels like 50-50 at this point. He didn't go last week. So Tom Brady's going to face a pretty good Packers defense with Russell Gage, with Brashad Perryman, Cameron Brate. Yep. What are we doing here, Jay?
I'm with you. I think that the Packers defense, we keep on saying it's pretty good. Is it actually pretty good? Because they just got gashed by David Montgomery on the ground. Minnesota, who did nothing against Philadelphia, did whatever they wanted against the Packers defense. We thought it was going to be really good entering the season. Jair Alexander back, Rashawn Gary, my sleeper DPOY pick. But, they need to show something because this Tampa offense isn't very good right now.
No, it isn't. But to your point, so Cook had a nice game. First off, yes, the Vikings had their way with him in Week 1. Buccaneers don't have a Justin Jefferson on their roster. Certainly not. They won't on Sunday. even if Julio's active, right? Or even if Godwin in his first game, they don't have a guy like Justin Jefferson on the roster. So feels like this is a big Leonard Fournette game.
Yes.
So I mean, when my love-hate list comes out tomorrow, Fournette's going to be on it. I think you see a heavy dose of Uncle Lenny in this one. But if Tom Brady's your quarterback, I would not, and I love TB12, but this feels like if ever there was a week you're going to bench Tom Brady, this feels like a week that you might think about doing it.
Tom Brady, yeah, I agree with you. He's the quarterback in our league, which we don't talk about. The Fantasy Football Hub League, we don't discuss that at all. But
except yesterday when stupid Alexa threw it up there every 10 seconds. But yeah.
So right? Tom Brady last year, he was 42 pass attempts per game, leading the league in passing yards, all of that. Came into the season as a top 2 favorite to lead the league again. 27 pass attempts, 34 pass attempts the first 2 weeks. Now, he did that against the Dallas and New Orleans defenses, which might be 2 of the top 5, 6 defenses in the league. But yeah, I wouldn't be expecting much from Tom Brady. This feels like his last year in New England, where he's had no one to throw to, and they still got through that, but it's not ideal.
They signed Cole Beasley. It would be surprising to me if he was active in this game. I just think from a fantasy perspective, I think you might want to, again, see who else you might have on your team. I'm not going desperately to, I'm not throwing in whatever Justin Fields for Tom Brady, but certainly I would lower expectations for Tom Brady in this game. And if Russell Gage should have had a big game last week and he didn't, I don't know that I have confidence in any pass catcher of this Tampa Bay offense here. And again, Bucs have a pretty good defense. And the Packers' offense have struggled. So we'll get more into this game as the week goes on. And, of course, on Sunday morning, we'll break it down on Fantasy Football Pregame. Jay, you and I will be there with Michael Smith to do that. But I don't know. This feels like a super low. I get why BetMGM has it at 41.5. And, and it actually was at, literally 5 minutes ago, it was at 42. It's already starting to trend down. It was low and it's coming down. So let's move on there as well.
Natural segue.
My point is that because the Bucs defense is pretty good, the Packers aren't going to be scoring a ton of points. So it's not like Brady's going to get into a shootout here with Rodgers either.
The 2 best skill position players by far on the Packers are both running backs. That is a godsend for unders. Now, the natural pivot from Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers is Marlon Mack. Obviously. We're going to talk about now. So he's been signed to the active roster of San Francisco. What are you doing with that?
I'm ignoring it.
Okay. Me too.
I'm ignoring it. I got this question on Twitter a lot, so we're bringing it up literally just to dismiss it. Whatever. I get it. You've heard of Marlon Mack, right? He's had some moments of fantasy glory here and there over the years with the Colts, but he was on the Colts. They didn't bring him back.
Nope.
Right? So then he goes to the Texans, and he was released by the Texans after training camp. Then he was placed on the Houston practice squad. He was released again by Houston on September 5th. So then the 49ers, who are now down to their third string running, so Elijah Mitchell goes in the year as the starter. He's out for 2 months. Jeff Wilson Jr. has missed 12 games since 2020. He is somebody that has struggled to stay on the field. Tyrion Davis-Price, their talented rookie, high ankle sprain.
Done.
He's now out for a handful of weeks. So it's just, to me, Marlon Mack is a body. He is a guy that qualifies at the position at running back. But that's it. It's fantasy football and it's the Niners, so anything's possible. But for me, this is not somebody that I am rushing to add to my roster. If I'm rostering a non-Jeff Wilson Niners running back, give me Jordan Mason.
Yeah, and the thing is with Marlon Mack that if he is taking time away from you, then you're probably not that good anyway, honestly, at this point.
He couldn't make the Texans.
Yep.
The Colts who could use some depth. I mean, they literally just have Hines and Taylor. He's on his third team in 6 months, basically. All due respect to Marlon Mack, but he is. I get it because you've heard of him. He had the 1,000 rushing yard season in 2019 with the Colts, so I get it. But when you can't make the Texans or the Colts, I just don't think you're going to have a fantasy impact on the Niners. So time now for a new segment. So yes. I don't know if you're aware, but we're in a bar.
Yeah, we're in a bar.
It's actually a working bar. It's literally a working bar. We are begging for a beer sponsor at the moment. We just put our booze in these beautiful Applebee's cups. But we got BetMGM in, so we got the betting sponsor. We got the presenting sponsor. So now we need a beer sponsor or a wine or a spirit.
You're pushing the wine
shots.
Sponsor.
I'll do shots. Is there a tequila out there that wants to be in here? Come on, baby. Your logo here, your booze here, and in here. Anyway, the fact for people listening at home, I just pointed to my mouth. and my belly. This is where the alcohol would go once it goes down my mouth, just for anatomy.
Started hot.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a bar, and we try to do bar thing. So we're introducing a brand new segment.
Yes.
Our producer, Steven D'Agostino, came up with this concept entirely on his own. Nice job, Steven. It is called Close It Out or Keep It Open.
Yes.
So that's what you do when you're at a bar. You know, when
Genius.
you've got you got the tab, you know, and like you're talking to the bartender, and it's like the bartender says, like, you want to close this out or you want to keep it open? The answer, of course, is always keep it open. But here for fantasy, we're going to talk about some players, Jay, that have struggled, that you have drafted high. And so my question is you starting or sitting them this week? They would, you entered the season thinking these guys were going to be starters for you. They are not. So are you going to keep it open?
Yes.
Continue to start them?
Yes.
Or are you going to close it out? Again, none of these are guys we're saying drop, but are you starting or sitting them for this week? And number one on the list?
DJ Moore, who we're expecting now with a real quarterback, a professional quarterback in Baker Mayfield, was going to take a bit of a leap. He hasn't. He's longing for Sam Darnold. He's the first football player in a long time to be longing for Sam Darnold.
Is there a bigger insult to an NFL player, to an NFL quarterback, than like there's a longing for Sam Darnold?
Sam.
Like, where are you at, Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think you have to keep playing DJ Moore. You have to keep starting him, but I would be concerned that Baker Mayfield has looked this bad through 2 weeks. I know it's early. I know he signed with the team late, but at the same time, he's barely completing 50% of his passes. He's taking almost 3 seconds to throw the ball, which is fine if you're Jalen Hurts. It's not fine if you're Baker Mayfield. And it's not like a lot of players have put up bad stats at the quarterback position with bad luck in forming those stats. Not really for Baker. Only 1 dropped pass. Offensive line has been fine and is keeping him clean. He's just been bad. And DJ Moore is bearing the brunt of that.
There's no question about it, but I agree. I think you need to start him. Look, I'm at wide receiver 24, which is significantly in my initial ranks, which is certainly lower than I had him coming into the preseason. So by my ranks, he's a upper tier wide receiver 3. But generally speaking, unless you have 2 really good wide receivers that you feel good about it, I'm still starting him. Like, he got the touchdown last week, which bailed you out. Like, he's at least had somewhat of a floor. And you think about the first 2 games that the Carolina Panthers have played. They played against the Browns and the Giants. 2 low-scoring offenses, so it got into a little bit of a slugfest. They played the Saints, and I think the Saints will do better offensively against a bad Panthers defense than either the Giants or the Browns. So I do think they're going to have to throw and open up this offense more. I know people are concerned about Lattimore, but the fact of the matter is DJ Moore moves all over the field. I don't think this is going to – he'll see some Lattimore, but this isn't going to be a true shadow situation. I think you'll see Lattimore on Robbie Anderson some as well, because they'll put DJ Moore in the slot. They'll move him all over and get him open. Again, you think about this upcoming schedule: Saints, Cardinals, Niners, Rams. It's a tough schedule over the next 4, but I do think – at least 3 of those 4 teams, right, Saints, Cardinals, and Rams, should be able to score at will on Carolina.
Yes.
So they are going to have to throw, and when they're throwing, I think they're going to throw to DJ Moore. I'm still in on DJ Moore.
Yep, I agree. You just have to grit and bear it.
He's had over 1,200 scrimmage yards each of the last 3 years with the ghost of Cam Newton and Sam Darnold, and like quarterbacks that are as, none of them are better than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
I'm still a Baker fan. I still believe Baker will get there.
He can't get any worse as well.
Right.
And the thing is, too, is that when your team is a catastrophe, which is what the Carolina offense is right now, catastrophe triggers change. Something will change. They'll change their offense, how it works. They'll change the personnel. They'll figure it out, and they'll get better than they are right now, we presume. Now,
catastrophe, what did you say? Catastrophe, what changes?
Triggers change, I think
triggers change.
Yeah.
Catastrophe triggers change.
Yeah.
Except here, we're still doing the same show. Juju Smith-Schuster has been, last week was wide receiver 64. He's so far on the season, he's wide receiver 64, averaging 8 points per game. Had the nice game against the Cardinals in week 1, 6 for 79, but just 3 for 10 in that Thursday night game against the Chargers last week. Where are we on Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, I think after week 1, we both thought that he was going to be the guy. He's clearly a tier above as we look we look at the stats last week, where in terms of the target percentage, Juju only at 8.8 target percentage, whereas Travis Kelce and MVS both sitting just above 20%. Look, the Chiefs, the offense wasn't very good against the Chargers. I know they got the win, but they get the pick 6. It just wasn't that good. I think it will be better. There will be more yards floating around. And the whole thing about Patrick Mahomes is that Patrick Mahomes is defense agnostic. It shouldn't matter what defense is on the field against him. He should be able to compile stats. Juju, not the best start across the first 2 weeks, but I think you have to ride it out. I still think he's the receiver that you want.
Not only do I think he's the receiver you want, I think he actually could have a bit of a breakout game here. Again, think about the Colts. Think about Christian Kirk last week, who had such a monster game out of the slot going against Indianapolis. Well, Juju plays a lot out of the slot. They've had out of the slot, I should say, and they've had 10 days to prepare for this game. The Chiefs have. Again, the stat we gave, you weren't here, you were off boondoggling or whatever it is you do. But I was here with Connor Rogers, who shows up. Like, he's there when you need him. Jay, just something helpful hint, something to think about. And but we talked about this with Connor, and the fact is, after the game, I'm like, look, Tyreek Hill, the great Tyreek Hill, still had 6 different games last year where he had single-digit fantasy points. So if Tyreek Hill has that kind of inconsistency in this Chiefs offense, it's going to happen for guys that aren't as good as Tyreek Hill, including Juju Smith-Schuster. I think I'm as a mid-tier wide receiver 3, but I think that when my love-hate comes out tomorrow, you will see Juju in the others receiving votes category as well. I think you can attack the slot against the Indianapolis Colts. So let's move on to Chicago now and Darnell Mooney. So, sorry, for the first two, for DJ Moore, I'm not playing along with a bit. For DJ Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster, we are both saying keep it open.
Yes.
Keep it open.
Darnell Mooney, though, I think there's a little bit more scope to close it out. What are you doing with Darnell Mooney? You're done.
We're closing it out on Darnell Mooney. He looks terrible.
Poor Darnell Mooney.
I don't think it's his fault, but this was a stat that someone gave me, which is I believe that Cooper Kupp has more targets than
Dwayne McFarland.
Dwayne McFarland. Oh, here you go. Here's the tweet on the screen here. So my buddy Dwayne McFarland wrote this. In the year 2022 of professional gridiron football, Cooper Kupp has more targets, 29, than Justin Fields has pass attempts at 28.
Can we get Cooper Kupp to be the offensive coordinator of the Bears?
Or even the quarterback.
Or the quarterback.
Anyway, good tweet from @Dwayne McFarland. He's a worthy follow.
Very good follow.
There on the Twitter machine. They're just not throwing. The offense looks awful. They're playing Houston. Everyone's like, oh, well, that's a pushover. No, it isn't. No. The Texans played the Colts tough in week 1. They played the Broncos tough in week 2. And I think we're still figuring out, was that the Texans playing, gritty, or was that, those two offenses that have really struggled? But somewhere in between, the fact is that there's literally nothing that we've seen out of the Bears offense as a whole, or specifically the Fields to Mooney connection, that gives you confidence that will change this week against the Houston Texans. 1 reception for 8 yards in week 1. Week 2, 1 reception for -4 yards.
Is that bad?
It's not good. It's #bad. Hashtag analysis.
They were down 3 scores at half, and they had 11 pass attempts in the entire game. Someone who liked the Justin Fields over.
Whether it is a lack of confidence in Justin Fields but there's been no other player that has emerged where you think that it might open some stuff up for Mooney. Like, if you're a defensive coordinator facing the Bears, you're like, I'm just going to shut down Mooney and I'll, whatever. Like, Cole Kmet, the ghost of Cole Kmet is out there. Boo, I'm here. Anyway. So no, I think close it out on Darnell Mooney. I'm not dropping him just yet, but I'm not starting him until I see something. We have at least seen fantasy success from him previously. So, between him and Justin Fields. So I'm willing to wait it out at least another week or 2.
Yeah, there is more scope. Fields did throw the ball a lot at the end of last season. They can't just do what they did against the Packers week in, week out. He will get more usage, but you have to see it first. Now, Josh Jacobs is our next guy playing at the Titans. Higher usage than expected for Jacobs, just not getting the touchdowns or the big runs. What are you doing with Josh Jacobs?
You know what's weird is because the amount of touches he's getting, I'm actually going to keep it open. I'm not a Josh Jacobs guy, as you know, but I certainly think you can run on the Titans. They're playing Tennessee. We just saw what a free Aaron Jones did against. I'm sorry, I take that back. That was on the Monday night. That was the Sunday night game. I'm getting my primetime games mixed up. We just saw what the Bills did to the Titans. Just completely dominated them and all aspects of the game. And so you can run on Tennessee. I think you can do pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you like.
It'll be big Devontae Adams games, but Josh Jacobs, who played 60% of the offensive snaps in week 1, 72% of the offensive snaps in week number 2, 19 rushes, right? He had almost 70 yards. So He's a little touchdown dependent. He's still not being involved in the passing game here, but he comes in for me as running back 20. So I'm keeping it open on Josh Jacobs. Again, you're hoping he falls into the end zone, but I think he's got, when you think about the number of touches he's getting and the percentage of offensive snaps that he's playing in a game in which the Raiders will be leading or competitive against the Titans, I don't think they get blown out, which is always the concern with Jacobs. He's kind of like a very poor man's Derrick Henry, that he's sometimes game script dependent.
Yep.
He'll be competitive in this game. I think he gets 15 to 20 touches in this game. Good shot at a touchdown. Borderline top 20 play for me against Tennessee.
I feel better about Josh Jacobs now than I did before the season,
1,000%.
to be honest, because he's just getting the touches, and usage are more predictive of production going forward than just happening to break one run or happening to fall into the end zone. The touchdowns will come if he keeps on getting this amount of usage. Now, a guy who's not getting the usage that we thought that he might is Rashad Penny, who has a better matchup this week against the Falcons than against the Niners, both that team and that rush defense, but he's just not getting the carries at the moment. And now Kenneth Walker is back, and my thing with Rashad Penny is that week 1 should have been the big Rashad Penny game where they were leading the entire game against the Broncos, and he only got 12 carries.
Yeah, he played 70% of the offensive snaps, but yes, to your point, he only got 12 carries. I mean, he got 14 total touches. He did catch 2 balls there, but I know they like Kenneth Walker quite a bit. I'm not really upset about him not playing a bunch. I mean, again, it was kind of an ugly game against the Niners last week for Seattle. Low scoring game. San Francisco's got a really good run defense. So the fact that Penny didn't do much against them, okay, but feels like it's not just Kenneth Walker, but you also see some Travis Homer in there as well. It's a little bit of a, three-headed committee in Seattle here. So if there is a get-right game for Rashad Penny, it is Atlanta. So, but I am at running back 41. If we get more clarity on how we think these carries get divided up over the course of the week, if we hear something from Seattle, but the fact of the matter is that you don't feel confident about this offense. I mean, I don't believe they've scored an offensive touchdown in 6 quarters.
That's bad.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. Right. You're out of wine country and right into analysis. Like, the Falcons should be a get-right game, and I think the Seahawks will run effectively against the Falcons. I think it's hard to know whether it's going to be Penny or Walker or Homer or some sort of combination their end. So for me on Rashad Penny, again, I'm as a running back 4 with upside. You're hoping for a touchdown, but I think for now I'm probably keeping it closed. Not dropping him, but I'm keeping it closed until we get a better sense of what's going on in Seattle. I do know that the Seahawks love themselves some Kenny Walker. Let's talk now about Travis Etienne in Jacksonville. We thought week 1, hey, that looked great, right?
Yep.
4 for 47. He caught the 2 balls for 18 yards. Should have had 2 different touchdowns. Like he basically dropped a walk-in touchdown, and then he was wide open for 1, and Lawrence just missed him. But in a game in which they dominated the Indianapolis Colts in week 2, he had just 12 touches in that one, 53 total yards here, played just 36% of the offensive snaps in week 2 after playing over 50% of them in week number 1. They're at the Chargers. Now, this is a game we expect them to be down and passing. So my question is, where are you on Travis Etienne, Jay? Because in theory, game script against the Chargers, I would assume the Chargers are favored in this one.
7-point favorites on
so their touchdown favorite. Their touchdown favorite here. Game script would seem to dictate that they'll want to be passing a lot against the Chargers to catch up, and so Etienne will be on the field a lot more. But we haven't seen it.
No, and 23 carries for James Robinson. I would have made that a significant underdog that he was ever going to get 23 carries in any game this season. And
37 to 18. That is the differential in touches between James Robinson and Travis Etienne. 37 touches to merely 18 for Travis Etienne through 2 games this season. J-Rob also has the 3 scores.
Yeah, I do think if Travis Etienne, to your point, if he just gets those 2 touchdowns in
or
week
even
1,
one of them.
just one, everything looks a little bit rosier. He does look healthy. He looks fine out there, which is probably the most important thing. But, on the Jags as being effectively the running back 2 on a Jags team that is still, even in the worst division in football, they're still, in the plus 300 range to win it. They're not an elite team by any means. So I do think he has scope to grow into the role later in the season. I think being a dog to the Chargers might even help him a bit because they're going to get him more involved in the pass game. But certainly James Robinson's the guy in Jacksonville right now.
And we talked about this in the preseason, by the way. We talked about that. We thought the Etienne Robinson split in ADP was just insane.
Yep.
Because it's like, guys, this could be a split. Peterson likes to use multiple running backs. So I don't know what to tell you here. The other problem is while they are touchdown underdogs to the Chargers, Bolts have a good defense. That's the other problem. Bolts have a good defense.
Very good.
So again, Travis Etienne comes in at running back 36 for me. So I think I am keeping it closed on Travis Etienne this week. I still like James Robinson. Let's see if he can get going. But again, Etienne is a low-end flex play for me in standard leagues. Last one now, a quarterback.
Yes, Joe Burrow hasn't started off the way that everyone would have wanted for Joe Burrow, or more importantly, really for his team. Now 0-2 after 2 gut-wrenching losses. What are you doing with Joe Burrow this week?
I'm keeping it open. I'm still starting him. It has not been pretty. He's been sacked a ton. Obviously, he's been under pressure. The 5 turnovers against the Steelers in Week 1. A brutal loss in Week 2 to Dallas with under 200 yards passing. What's been nice though is that he's got like almost 70 yards rushing on the season. And some of that is because his protection is breaking down. He's having to take off. But that's not something we expected. We saw it some in his rookie year. We really didn't see it last year. So the fact that the rushing has returned a little bit, 4 for 26 last week, 6 for 47 in Week 1 on just the rushing alone. Now he's playing the Jets. And the Jets are a great story, and it's fun, and what a great comeback they did against the Browns last week. But still, it's a secondary you can exploit. Yep. And I am just banking on I thought Joe Burrow's ADP was insane as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and through 2 weeks I've been proven right on that one. But yet, even despite the fact that the Bengals have played bad, they're 0-2, he's been bad, he's still so far a top 12 fantasy quarterback on a points per game basis. Now, some of that is because some guys have just been brutal, like the Bradys and the Rodgers of the world, but still, like even with all the mistakes, he's managed to get it done. I'm at QB 10 this week against the Jets. Remember, he played the Jets last week. He had last year, I should say, had over 20 fantasy points against the Jets last year. This is one where it's like, T. Higgins is healthy. They've got Jamar Chase, Boyd, Mixon. They're too good. And by the way, the Jets are too competent that Joe Burrow is going to have to throw in this one. I'm keeping it open on Joe Burrow as a top 12 play this week.
Yeah, and to your point, the Jets, by DVOA, they have the worst pass defense in the league. By PFF, they're 29th for pass coverage grade, so they're not a good passing defense, but the offense for the Jets has been surprisingly very competent and very solid. So
Jacoby Brissett had a good game against the Jets last week. Jacoby Brissett put up numbers.
Exactly.
Amari Cooper put up numbers against the Jets. Yep. So, like, if the Jacoby Brissett Amari Cooper connection can get it done against the Jets, I have to believe the Burrow to Chase and Higgins can also get it done. When we return, Jay Croucher.
Yes, Matthew Berry.
I'm going to drink more. And we'll talk about football or something. Something. Hey, score big every Sunday night with a $100,000 jackpot. It is the NBC Sports Predictor app giving you a shot at winning $100,000. You heard me, $100,000 by entering Sunday Night Seven's free. You heard me, free contest between the Niners and the Broncos. So if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. Thank me later. By the way, if you want to compete against me and Jay, use the code ROTO2022 to join our league. All right, so the Sports Predictor app, obviously, the Sunday Night 7, that's the game this week is Broncos-Niners.
Yeah.
Right here on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man. And so let's start here. One of the props is about Russell Wilson, who has been bad.
Yeah, not great.
Has not been the kind of quarterback that if you just look at the on-field performance, after the first 2 games, you're not like, who should get $250 million? That guy.
Yeah. Niners are favorite now on BetMGM, minus 1.5. That's flipped. Yesterday, the Broncos were minus 1.5. So not a lot of confidence in the Broncos. But what are you doing with Russ? Passing yards.
In terms of passing yards, I'm going 280 plus. So there's wider range. I mean, remember, Russell Wilson in Week 1 had 340 passing yards. Now, last week against the Texans, he only had 219 passing yards. San Francisco comes in. I think you'll look at the stats and say, like, wow, their defense is really good. But is it? Like, we think it is, but we just don't know. Yep. Week 1, they played in a monsoon against the Bears, who couldn't get anything going. And Week 2, they played Geno Smith. They haven't played a real quarterback yet. Now, I get it. Russell hasn't looked like a real quarterback yet either, but because they've gone to the red zone. Javonte fumbles once, Melvin Gordon fumbles once, and they got 3 McManus field goals. Like, that's the entirety of their red zone opportunities so far this year in Denver. I have to believe that that San Francisco will move the ball. Again, we are not rooting for anyone's injury, but I am a believer that the Trey Lance injury and Garoppolo starting is a good thing ultimately for the 49ers offense. Not necessarily that Garoppolo is going to be a fantasy option, but just he brings a stability to that offense that allows Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, if he plays, and the running backs to do what they do.
Yep, I agree with that. I think that in a weird way, I think Lance, with him down, the range of outcomes for the Niners are just a little bit more condensed. I think now the Niners are probably more likely to get to 10 wins than they were, and they might even be less likely to win the Super Bowl just because Lance had more of the upside. My pick in this.
So Garoppolo, the other side of the ball. So right, you make picks. I'm taking the over on 280 passing yards. I think Sunday night Russ has a big game, and I do think the Niners move the ball against Seattle, so he's going to have to throw.
Yep.
And I think it'll be easier for them to throw against the Niners than it will be for them to run. Now, let's go for other side of the ball, Jimmy Garoppolo, passing yards. Where are you on Jimmy G?
Yep, so I'm going under 200 passing yards for Jimmy G, just because I think it's the biggest range of outcomes is beneath that. He went under 7 times last season, and there are a lot of game scripts where Jimmy G, particularly if they're winning and winning early, Kyle Shanahan loves to run the ball with a lead. So that would be my pick.
Yeah, and especially, by the way, if there's a turnover, and that kind of stuff, and because we do think that, the Broncos defense is obviously struggling there. There's also a question about, so let's I'm going to cheat a little bit because last segment we did the, keep it open, or close it out segment.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that right now for Russell Wilson as well. Where are you on Russell Wilson? Are you he's been bad. He ain't been the guy you drafted him to be through the first 2 weeks, and now he's on the road. I believe the game's in San Francisco, correct? Is it?
No, they're at home.
No, it's in Denver. I apologize. So he's at home in primetime, which is helpful, but still, he's playing the Niners in primetime. Where are you on Russell Wilson? Are you starting him against the 49ers?
I am. I would be patient on Russell Wilson. He's still got the 7th highest average depth of target in the league. He's still throwing it deep. I mean, this is game. He played for a decade in Seattle. Now he's on a new team, new coach, new system, new receivers. It's 2 games. How much differently are we thinking about the Broncos and Russ if Javonte Williams doesn't fumble at the 1 in week 1, if Melvin Gordon doesn't fumble at the 1, and they just beat Seattle and then they're 2-0, and then I think everyone is kind of off Russ's back. Also, I wouldn't just completely give up on Nathaniel Hackett yet. It's been 2 weeks.
Right.
Let's just cool it on the Broncos. Maybe they're not any good, but let's see what they do against San Francisco first.
I would agree with that as well. I'm starting Russell Wilson if I have him this week. I'm not feeling good about it.
No.
But again, because, by the way, there's not a lot on the waiver wire. That's always saying, like, okay, you're not going to start Russell Wilson. Well, then who are you starting?
Exactly.
Because Carson Wentz is out there, but I'm nervous about him against the Eagles, against both his former team and a very good defense.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm wearing this today because I don't believe I'm going to be able to wear it on Monday.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm talking about? All right.
Could get ugly. Okay, we're going to jump into some matchup previews now.
Yeah, let's do that.
And we're going to start off with Pittsburgh at Cleveland, blockbuster on Thursday. And first, we're going to throw to some sound of Mike Tomlin expressing patience on Mitchell Trubisky.
Okay, that'd be the only thing you have to do.
Offensively, does Mitch need to be more aggressive looking downfield?
I think he could and we could.
To that point, Mike, how much freedom does he have if a play comes in and he sees one-on-one outside? Does he have to scrap the play and take a shot?
There are probably one-on-one opportunities on the outside of every play concept that we put in. So it would probably require no changes that you describe. We got long ball shots drawn up in a lot of things, and sometimes it's just whether or not we get the appropriate look or we like the matchup within the look.
Okay.
So there you go.
The Pittsburgh offense is extremely blah at the moment. Is Mitchell Trubisky holding it back?
I mean, not any more than Ben did last year, right? And Najee Harris had a big fantasy game. Najee Harris, I don't think he's holding it back any more than Ben Roethlisberger did last year. And again, last year, Najee Harris was a very viable fantasy running back. Deontay Johnson was a very viable fantasy wide receiver. Pat Freiermuth had a usable year at tight end. We had moments of Chase Claypool last season as well, and moments from Juju last year for the Steelers. So to the extent we care about the Steelers offense, I think he's fine. Short week playing at Cleveland. I don't love Thursday games. I don't love games on the road. I certainly don't love games on the road against a divisional rival that has a good defense. But the Browns defense is banged up. we may not see Myles Garrett in this one, right?
Devian Clowney out.
Right, Clowney's out, exactly. So you're still starting Najee Harris. I have more as a running back 2 than a running back 1. Again, still a tough defense, even with a little bit of the Browns banged up. But, listen, he had 20 touches in week number 2. Now, he's averaging under 3 yards a carry, so he needs that volume because he's not particularly efficient. But I think on the road at Cleveland, with the struggles of Trubisky, I think he continues to get massive volume there. I think you have to keep rolling Najee Harris out. Again, have him as an RB2. I think you're still starting Deontay Johnson, right? Deontay Johnson has 22 targets through the first 2 games, right? He's been targeted on 30% of his total routes through 2 games. Now, he has under 60 receiving yards in both games. Like, it hasn't been all roses so far. He's a guy that's, basically been a borderline top 30 wide receiver through the first 2 weeks. But I think the volume of targets, I think you still have to continue to start Deontay Johnson. And Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth has been, a real nice revelation, targeted at least 7 times each of the first 2 games here. I'm his tight end 7 this week. So I think Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, and Najee Harris, guys that you would normally start, are startables. To me, and you're not starting Trubisky. So the question really is, what are you doing with Chase Claypool?
Yeah,
that's all it is.
I assume we're just completely out on George Pickens at this point. Until he starts showing something. Yeah,
he's running a lot of routes. He's playing a lot of snaps, which is great, but it hasn't translated to production NFL-wise or fantasy-wise. I have Claypool at wide receiver 51, I should say, under 30 receiving yards in both games, under 6 air yards per target. They didn't use him in the running game in week 2 the way they did in week 1. Tough matchup on the road. Claypool's likely on my bench, but the Steelers that we care about, I think you still have to start this week. Maybe lower expectations, but you're still starting them.
Yep, Cleveland are 4.5-point favorites at home. The total is 38.5. Weather might be involved there, but look, with that line in total means that the Steelers are projected for 17 points, which isn't much. So Deontay Johnson, who might be one of the 10 to 15 most talented wide receivers in the game, he is certainly the guy with the upside. All right, Ravens -3 at Patriots. The over-under is 43.5. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. Feel like we're going to be talking about these guys a lot. Who are you more in on for this week?
I think it's Damian Harris. Clearly has more touchdown equity. He's actually out-carried Stevenson 15-8 despite playing 15 less snaps. Harris has actually out-touched Ramondre, or out-carried him 15-8, right? He's also out-targeted Ramondre Stevenson. That's shocking to me. He's gotten 5 targets through 2 games. Stevenson's just gotten 4. They've been splitting the third down work. So the pro Stevenson argument is like, well, he's going to be much more involved in the passing game and play a lot more snaps, but that just hasn't been the case through 2 games here. So if they're basically splitting the snaps and Harris is on the right side of the platoon in terms of not only carries but also targets, and he clearly has more touchdown equity, I have Harris at 24. I have Stevenson at 39. So I have Harris as a high-end flex play, and Stevenson is just a, what the heck, hope for a score running back 4, at least in this week against the Ravens.
Yeah, I think, look, the way that you beat this Ravens defense, which has been borne out over the past year and 2 games, is that they really struggled deep. Their secondary, which was supposed to be much improved, obviously looked disastrous against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Exact same stuff that Jamar Chase and the Bengals did to them last season. Even now with Marlon Humphrey back, with Marcus Peters back, with Marcus Williams in there, he's got a couple of picks.
I don't think they're 100%, but they're out there. They're playing at least some of the snaps, right?
Yeah, but I don't think there's anyone on the Patriots who is Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle.
No.
Nelson Aguilar is fast, but he will get deep and then drop the 60-yard touchdown pass.
Look at you. You're like the guy that saved the baby. Poor Nelson Aguilar. He's
Sorry,
just trying to do his
Nelson
own thing.
Yeah.
Just trying to do his own thing.
Had a nice moment against the Steelers.
He did.
Now,
have you ever caught a baby out of a building? Have you ever saved a baby from a burning building?
I've not.
What's the most heroic thing you think you've ever done?
Well, nothing springs to mind, which would be the answer there. So, certainly very little hero equity in my life.
That's
what about
fair.
you? What's the most heroic thing you've done?
I mean, look, you never like to brag about these sort of things, but I went on national TV and declared Jalen Hurts as my ride or die. I mean, and
set you up for that
and
one.
basically saved a lot of fantasy manager seasons. That's basically what I mean. Every single day I come out here, I put myself on the line.
Oh, no.
I just, I give it all up for the crowd, right? I leave it all on the Excel spreadsheet, doing it for the boys out there. Not all heroes wear capes. The most heroic thing I've done is get up every single day and live my life like a true American. That's what I've done right here on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Do you understand the sacrifice it takes to put on makeup and wear a T-shirt in a fake bar talking about make-believe football? Do you understand the sacrifice that takes? You're welcome, America. You're welcome.
That was great. We should clip that. Yeah, that was passionate.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the most heroic
Packers
thing
at Bucks. The total in Packers at Bucks, as we were talking about, was 41.5.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's tough to come down from that speech.
I understand.
And the
Thanks
Bucks,
to our friends at BetMGM.
Yes.
We can't mention BetMGM enough.
No.
Just so you know.
We love
They're paying us
BetMGM.
money. We love BetMGM. We love BetMGM's money. We love BetMGM's money, and we love BetMGM.
Odds provided by BetMGM.
There we
The
go.
Bucks-
It says it right there on the graphic. Packers at Buccaneers -1. Bucks favored at home in this one. But again, now the over/under is 41. Literally at the start of the show, it was 42. We checked it literally 2 minutes before we went on air. It was 42. Then when we were talking about it, like 5 minutes later, it went down to 41.5, and we're already now down to 41. I think if we find out that Julio's not playing in this game, I think it'll come down even further on this one. This one looks brutal. I have Aaron Rodgers at QB 15, which is the lowest I think I can ever remember ranking him.
Yeah, and the thing with the Bucks is everyone talks about the Bucks rushing defense, how it's so elite. The Frank Reich and the Colts, they gave up running Jonathan Taylor in the matchup last year because it's so good. Bucks right now have the best pass defense in the league. This is the best defense in football right now against the Packers passing game that has shown not much at all so far. And like we talked about earlier, two best skill position players on the Packers are running backs, which deflates the total. From a line perspective, the thing that's interesting to me is that I'd be a little bit worried if I was a Green Bay fan that they're not even favored in this game, despite the fact that no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, Donovan Smith, question marks there. If all those guys were playing, this line would be 3.5. So the Packers, if they want to be, in the mix for the 1 seed in the NFC, this is a game they really need to win.
Aaron Rodgers had a nice game on Sunday night, right, against the Bears. They dominated Chicago. 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was QB 16 in week 2. Like Aaron Rodgers' good week this year was QB 16. He was QB 32 in week number 1. Again, I'm at QB 15. Meanwhile, Tom Brady, and this is like a leap and a prayer, and he'll probably come down. Again, I'm hoping that Julio plays, but right now I'm at QB 13, and that's low for me. He's got 2 touchdown passes through 2 weeks. QB 27 in week 1, QB 25 last week. It's literally just to your point. He's at home against the Packers, and so we're expecting and hoping for good things here. But there's nothing in the numbers that we've seen so far, and candidly, nothing that we've seen from his playing that gives you confidence. Through 2 weeks of last year, he had 9 touchdown passes. He's got 2 so far. And to your point, offensive line is beat up, and he's without the majority of his offensive weapons. This feels like a big Leonard Fournette game, A.J. Dillon game, Aaron Jones game. Even at 41, at the moment, I'm probably taking the under.
Yep. Interesting on Brady. I actually think I would be trying to trade for Tom Brady in my league right now, just because, one, he's going to get better as Mike Evans comes back, as Chris Godwin gets reintegrated, Donovan Smith gets healthier, there's upside there, and then also they played the Dallas and New Orleans defenses, which are 2 of the top 5-6 defenses in the league. Like we mentioned, I think there's a lot of scope for Brady to get better. I think he hasn't looked as good as he did last year. He still looked fine. That bomb to Brashad Perryman for the touchdown, that was peak Tom Brady. He's still Tom Brady. Maybe he's not second in MVP, but I would be buying low on Tom Brady.
Meanwhile, though, again, other than Julio, right now I have Russell Gage at wide receiver 44. If we know Julio's not playing, he probably moves up into the 30s. But and Lazar's in the 40s, right? I mean, if you're starting the running backs in this game, and I think that's the only thing you have confidence in is I think the running backs and the defenses in this game.
Yep.
You're starting the Bucs defense if you have it there. Let's move over to what probably at the beginning of the year didn't seem like the hottest game, but
it's the best
now
game
in
of the
week 3, the best game of the week, Dolphins, Bills, Buffalo traveling to Miami to play the red-hot Tua Tagovailoa. Did you see that there's a video, somebody put this out, I don't know who did it, but it was actually hilarious. Somebody basically took all the footage of Tua and reversed it to make him look like he's a right-handed quarterback.
Completely different.
Yes, and it's amazing. He looks like all of a sudden he's got a cannon of an arm when it's flipped. So find the video it's making the rounds on social media. It's really funny, whoever did that. It's really cool. But are we in on Tua? Like he was the second best quarterback in fantasy last week, which is crazy to think about, right? That he was.
Well, 469 yards and 6 touchdowns will do that.
And he was, but his only quarterback too.
I know.
That's the crazy part. Obviously, the most fantasy points in his career. Playing the Bills though. I mean, Bills tied for the first in the NFL in terms of takeaways through the first 2 games. That Bills defense is legit.
Yeah, the Bills are the best team in football. I think they're tier 1 by themselves right now. That's why they are 6-point favorites in Miami, despite how good Miami have looked. The total right now, it's ticking down a little bit, but it's still 52.5. I'm in on Tua. I'm completely in on Tua. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league or anything, but I do think that he is good enough where if the context is favorable to him, then he can absolutely thrive. And right now his context is elite. Tirico, Jalen Waddle, the best wide receiver 1-2 punch in the league.
Super fast.
A bet that I like, our friends at BetMGM, they're not up with this right now. They'll come back up. I like Tua to lead the league in passing yards. That'll come back 15 to 1, 20 to 1 type of range. I just think that they're going to be throwing a lot. McDaniel is very progressive. The Patriots game, they were leading the entire game, and Tua still had 33 pass attempts versus just 23 rushing attempts for the team. So I like Tua. Tua throwing righty. Wow.
This is at Fin Sports App. We're showing the
Is
video.
That Tom Brady?
The video. Yeah. So this is the reverse. This is the reverse video that was done, where they're showing the Tua video of where he is. It appears as if he's throwing right-handed because all the film has been flipped here. As you see it there on your screen, it's hilarious there. Right-handed Tua is just got a cannon for an arm.
Quick release.
Right. At Fin Sports F, if you want to find it on the Twitter machine there. Tua comes in just outside my top 10 for this game against Buffalo. Remember, Bills defense is legit, and I think they'll play back and they'll say, like, we're not going to get beat deep the way the Ravens have. But to your point, they have so much speed between Waddle and Hill and the running backs. Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert are really fast. There was a changing of the guard at running back for the Dolphins. I want to talk about these guys because you're starting the 2 wide receivers. I think Tua is a borderline QB1 in this one in what should be a high-scoring game. So I think he's a borderline QB1 in this one. But Mostert had just 16 early down snaps in week 1. That jumped to 29 in week 2. He had the only 2 goal line snaps, whereas Chase Edmonds went from 24 to 17 week 1 to 2 in terms of the early down snaps. He's still primarily the third down back, and it's weird though. In a game in which they were down big, the Dolphins were. Chase Edmonds wasn't involved in that fourth quarter explosion. It was just all Hill and Waddle. Where are you thinking in terms of these 2 running backs, Mostert and Edmonds? I will just tell you, I have both guys as running back 3s, but I have Mostert over Edmonds because of the touchdown equity. Any thoughts there for you?
I would have Mostert as well, just because the snaps are shifting in his direction. Also think, just in terms of talent, he has the higher upside as well. Whenever he's been healthy, I mean, in San Francisco, his yards per carry was just insane every year that he was healthy. So I think that Mostert is the more compelling guy of that duo.
But I'm not ready to, again, going back to our, close it out or keep it open. I'm keeping it open on Chase Edmonds.
Yeah,
again,
he got paid.
He got paid. He is fast. He fits what they want to do on offense. Like, he's just another weapon out of the backfield. Just, listen, if you're Tua and you're like, well, Tyreek Hill is wide open 40 yards down the field. Yeah. Like, I'm going to throw it there. But I don't think that's always going to be the case every single week. But certainly that is the game of the week. Bills at Miami. Followed just slightly after Eagles, Commanders.
Yes.
The 1-1 Commanders against the 2-0 Eagles. Carson Wentz, the return to one of the teams that gave up on him.
Yeah, just one of the teams.
Just one of, there's multiple teams that gave up. But where are we at on this game?
Well, the line is, it's your best friend Jalen Hurts against your team, the Commanders.
I don't want to watch football.
Yeah.
I said this, we saw that at the top of the show.
Well, I have a play that will allow you to get into the game.
All right, what do you got?
Well, so the line is Eagles -6.5 in Washington, which just shows how much the Eagles are valued at this point. And the total is 47.5. And if you want to get involved in the game, I would say to bet the over. Because I think that, one, this Eagles offense is explosive.
Yeah,
they're passing more. And also I think that...
And Washington can't stop anyone.
Yes.
Washington got destroyed by Detroit. And Jacksonville moved the ball against them easily as well. Again, a couple of dropped touchdowns. That Jacksonville total could have been a lot higher than it was.
Looked like that. Jared Goff looked like Super Bowl year Jared Goff, like that Minnesota game where he had 1,000 yards. So I do think that for Washington, for their sins, Carson Wentz has shown that he can put up numbers in this offense. I still think it's a good offense. I think it's a totally fine enough offense. I think the Eagles, like you said, will be able to score at will. And 47.5, this means that this is a below average scoring game by the total, because the average total is 48. I think this is an above average scoring game. I would expect more points than average. So that would be my look in this game.
The question becomes, does Wentz just, implode? I mean,
well, he kind of did, and they still scored 27 against the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I put that loss on the defense, but I would say, look, the Eagles defense, top to bottom, absolutely legit, right? And that secondary is great. And then you get into the whole the mind games of Wentz against his former team, and just sort of this could, if there's no scenario that would shock me. Wentz could completely implode. Wentz could have one of those like what Burrow did in week 1, like 5 turnovers against the Eagles. Like, anything's possible here. I mean, the Eagles do have 4 takeaways in the first 2 games. Wentz has thrown 3 interceptions against the Jags and the Lions. Yep. He's thrown 3 picks against the Jags and the Lions, and now here come the Eagles, who are actually good at defense. Like, it could be scary for me. I have Wentz as a mid-tier quarterback 2 right now. I'm a QB 14 because I think you're right. I think it won't be pretty. I think the Eagles win this game handily, but I do think Wentz will put up some junk time numbers here. It is, to your point, a good offense. Scott Turner's done a great job with him. McLaurin, Samuel, both a top 30 wide receivers for me. We expect Darius Slay on Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson is a deep sleeper in this one as well. All right, I'm being told we're going to break.
Let's go to break.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brian Rubin's velvety voice in my ear.
Okay, we are back. Before we jump into some more rankings, though, here's where you get Matthew Berry's content. The man to my left, Peacock and YouTube.com/NFL on NBC. All major podcast platforms. Sirius XM, Channel 85, NBC Sports Audio, at Matthew Berry TMR on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on your TikTok. I'm just not watching the videos.
I understand. I'm also at Matthew Berry on the Fantasy Life app. And, of course, you can get my love, hate, and rankings at NBCSportsEdge.com or rotoworld.com. We're going to do some rankings. My rankings are up right now on rotoworld.com. Very quickly, Fantasy Life app giving me 2 quick alerts. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, both back at practice for the Colts today.
Good.
Great news for the Colts and for Pittman. Myles Garrett also expected to play against the Steelers, so that is a good news for the against the Steelers. So good news for the Browns defense. Clowney has officially been ruled out.
Bad news for Mitchell Trubisky. All right, Michael Carter, Breece Hall, one that we talk about a lot and I think got more compelling after the weekend. Is Breece Hall going to take over this backfield sooner than later?
Yeah, probably at some point, but I still think it's an avoid. I still think listen, when you've got a cannon of an arm like Joe Flacco does, you're not handing it off.
Best quarterback in the league for mine.
Numbers are numbers, baby. Look, Breece Hall still got 29% of the snap share in week number 2. Signs of, despite the fact that he was more productive, 7 rushes for 50 yards versus 7 for 23 for Michael Carter. Carter was still more involved in the passing game. I think the Jets are going to be trailing more often than not. Breece Hall is a 3-down back, but they like both guys here. At the moment, if I'm playing one over the other, I'm picking Carter over Breece Hall. But I do think ideally it's a situation to avoid, especially against a pretty good Bengals defense.
Yep, I agree. I think it is a matter of time before Breece Hall takes over, but not necessarily that it happens in the next 4 weeks. It could be 8 weeks from now. We just don't know. Okay.
It's not happening this week in any way to make you change, what you would do in terms of your starting information. Let's move on to the Rams now. There was a signs of life from Cam Akers. He was disappeared in week number 1, but week number 2, he played 44% of the snaps after just 18 in week 1. Darrell Henderson, meanwhile, comes down 82% of the snaps in week 1, just 56 in week number 2. More of a committee. They're playing the Cardinals, who can't seem to stop anyone. Where are we at in the Rams' backfield?
Yeah, I mean, Akers got more touches, but is this guy ever going to average more than 3 yards per carry? It feels like it's been a long time. I still think Henderson is the guy you want.
I would agree. He comes in at running back 28 for me. Cam Akers at running back 34. Again, they're both guys right there. If I have to pick one, give me Henderson over Akers. But the fact that I only have them 6 spots apart tells you this is a true committee. It's why in the preseason we kept saying Henderson's much better value than Akers, because this is going to be committee, and that's what it is against the Arizona Cardinals. Both guys are merely flexes that you're hoping for a touchdown. Finally, let's talk about the offensive rookie of the year here. BetMGM has released some of their odds. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, well, let's get to that in our last call after the break.
I'm up against it. Why do I always run out of time? I keep talking. We are back and looking very quickly at Offensive Rookie of the Year odds here in Last Call, presented by BetMGM. A lot of rookies there as well, Jay, but who stands out to you?
I like Kenny Pickett, who's plus 1,400. He hasn't played a snap in the NFL yet, but I think there's probably about a 50% chance that he plays in the next month. And if he's good enough, I think that he's the favorite. I think there's a 20% chance he's good enough, so plus 900 would be my fair
Usually
price.
This is a rookie, this is a quarterback or a running back thing, but we saw a lot of rookie wide receivers. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, just goes to show you. Listen, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Happy hour back tomorrow. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.